G'day, g'day. Today is the 4th of February 2026. So, I'm filming another episode of Message of Hope. Let's talk. Most money habits don't begin as decisions. They begin as conveniences, as defaults, as things that feel too small to matter. Think about it. A charge that renews quietly each month. Netflix. A spending category you stop checking because it rarely surprises you. A pattern you tell yourself, oh yeah, you'll review it later and when life slows down. Now, none of these feel like problems, right? So when something stops feeling like a choice, it doesn't stop shaping direction. You see, small money habits are powerful precisely because they don't feel dramatic. They don't trigger alarm and they don't create regret in the moment. It feels good. They just keep repeating. Sure, over time, repetition becomes formation. Okay, I'm not saying the habits being harmful, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that habits being formative even when they're harmless. As you know, there's good and bad habits. Think about this. So here's a single image that might help frame this. Imagine a picture frame hanging slightly crooked on the wall like this, right? Or maybe a little bit like this. Not enough to bother you, enough to fix immediately. You notice it once, maybe twice, then it fades into the background. Weeks later, someone else walks in and sees it instantly. Oh, the tilt didn't increase, but your awareness of it simply decreased. Therefore, many money habits work the same way. Not wrong enough to demand attention, but just familiar enough to disappear. This isn't about irresponsibility, it's about invisibility. And scripture names this kind of formation quietly. Taken from the book of Luke, chapter 16, verse 10. Whoever is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much. That's a lot of truth in there that people can simmer over it. Have a think about that. Okay. So, it doesn't rush, it simply observes that repetition shapes orientation long before outcomes appear. So what's subtle here is that very little rarely feels moral or meaningful. Yeah, sometimes it might even feel operational, administrative, below the level concern, right? And that's why drift happens without intent. No, not because someone chose poorly, but because no one was looking anymore. Sometimes the most helpful move isn't change. It's bringing something back into view. Ooh, didn't want to get run over there. Not to fix it, not to optimize it, but just to see it again as a choice instead of a default. And clarity often begins there. Alright, I said plenty. So here's a question I'm going to leave with you. What small money habit in your life has stopped asking for your attention? And importantly, what might change if you simply notice again? Thanks for joining me again today. If you valued this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and pass on this video, share it with your friends and loved ones. See you on the next one. Bye bye.